Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Tarnation TV production hosted by the Flatout Racing Network. The Rolling Thunder Gaming Racing League presents the Talladega Challenge. This is season number 67, race number 12. Thanks for joining us as always. Huge thank you to our anonymous donor who I honestly have no idea who it is, but they make this happen, and a huge thank you to them. And without further ado, my name is Blaine Donland, joined by Flatout Racing Network, Kyle Matthews, and Seth Cole.
And Blaine, we've reached the countdown of 3 races left to go until we're going to crown ourselves a champion here in Season 67. Last week, Chuck McClure, the defending champion of this series from 1 season ago, got his first victory of the season, a big one to lock him into the Final Four to look for back-to-back championships. He's got one of those coveted spots. 3 spots are still up for grabs, and we'll be determining at least those 3 by the end of the night. But Kyle, there have been scenarios where we have seen more than 4 drivers advance into the final round of the playoffs. The points are really, really close here amongst 3rd through 6th. Novsker looks somewhat safe, +10, and there's a couple of drivers that are borderline must win. We talked about last week how there were going to be so many different drivers, whether they were playoff drivers or non-playoff drivers with different agendas. Now the agendas are very far spread amongst the entirety of the field.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch tonight. You mentioned how close the points are. Prediction, is it going to be just 4? Are we going to have more tonight? We will see.
We have had a history of a final 5 in the final 2 races of the season, and could very well have that scenario again here tonight. Way that it looks as far as the playoff scenario for the respective 7 drivers that are yet to make their way into that final 4. Tim Novsker, as mentioned, he's currently shown as the points leader of the 8 playoff drivers. 10 points the good above the cut line, which is 4th in the standings. Chuck McClure is shown 2nd, but his victory last week locks him into the final 4. Grant Wesley and Josh Metallic, they right now sit 3rd and 4th, but they are actually tied with 756 points each. So right now they'd be technically sharing 3rd and 4th, that cut line area. Bob Seminara, he's only 2 points below the cut line. Rodney Sullins, a very short distance of 4 points. But then you get into a couple of drivers here tonight that really need to perform and may need a couple of those drivers I just mentioned to run in some bad luck. Donnie Garrett, Denny Carroll last week did not go their way. They both come into this race 33 and 34 points respectively below the cut line. They don't have to win tonight. Mathematically, they could point their way in. But if you're the 77 and the 41, do you maybe treat this race as a must-win just in case the dominoes don't fall your way?
I think you have to. I mean, you got to try to control your own fate as much as you can. And, it's interesting. You look at Donnie Garrett. He's been in this position before. He was in this position just to make the playoffs this season, and he was able to win that race and get him a spot and get him a spot into the playoffs. So, I wouldn't count him out either. So
it's interesting when I looked at those 2 drivers, I wondered, a lot of times we don't hear drivers stress about it as much, but in a race like this, especially with what's on the line, both Denny Carroll and Donnie Garrett, you'd have to think, would want good starting track position. The random qualifying draw came in. Denny Carroll starts from the pole. Donnie Garrett starts from the 7th position. How much more of a weight off their shoulders is it to know that they're at least going to be starting up at the front and can try and maintain that rather than find themselves coming into tonight in a hole and then have to work their way from the back of the field up to the front?
Yeah, they don't have to try to charge their way up there. Denny Carroll, like you mentioned, drew the pole, and Donnie Garrett's got a good, qualifying spot right there. So that takes a little bit of pressure off. Not saying that there's really a safe spot out there on the track at Talladega, but it makes things a lot easier for them. At least the qualifying draw went their way.
As I stated, both these drivers, they are not mathematically in a must-win situation as of yet. Big reason for that. There are a bunch of X factors out there. The remainder of the field has another 40-car field here tonight. I don't believe we have been any less than 40 cars every single Thursday night here this season, whether it's regular season or during the playoffs. There are a lot of points available on the table. Let's talk a little bit about those drivers: Wesley, Metallic, Seminara, Rodney Sullins. They're going to have to rely, obviously, on some good luck here tonight to leapfrog each other, be above that cut line. But consider the fact as well that so far we have had 3 playoff races, and 2 of those races have seen a playoff driver go to victory lane. Does that maybe kind of increase the odds of those drivers there, maybe finding themselves up at the front and winning their way into the Final Four? Or do you think that tonight we've got a greater chance of a non-playoff driver maybe sniping a victory and forcing those 4 drivers to have to point their way in.
Well, I mean, there's a lot more drivers out there in the field that are not in the playoffs than there are that are in. So, I mean, you got to look at it, like that for one thing. But I don't know. I mean, this is the kind of race where, I feel like the cream rises to the top, as they like to say. So, in the last couple of weeks, how many times have we looked up there in the running order and we've seen like nothing but playoff drivers in the first, 5 or 6 spots. So I expect them to be up there all night.
Well, we have zeros on the clock here for happy hour. These drivers are moments away from gridding up for what will be the final elimination race of the season. At least 4 drivers will then traverse this racetrack over the next 2 weeks, looking to accumulate the most points to claim the season 67 Talladega Challenge Series Championship. We'll take the opportunity here before they grid up to start taking you through the 40-car starting lineup for tonight's race. Denny Carroll, as mentioned, playoff driver, needs a good run here tonight, maybe a win depending on where the other playoff drivers are running during the course of this race, but he draws the long straw. He got the pole position. He'll be alongside of Robert Spring in that Terry Labonte throwback. Mike Mangialardi is going to be back in row number 2 alongside of Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Jeff Crivello, he'll be with Brian Lovell. They make up row number 3. Donnie Garrett, hoping that the 777s, the 77 in 7th, will get him a little bit of luck here tonight to advance in the final 4. He shares that 4th row with playoff driver Rodney Sullins. Dennis McCarthy, he's back in the 5th row alongside of Brian Schilling. That completes your top 10. Robert Breedlove, he's in row 6 with playoff driver Bob Seminara. Row 7 will find John Godfrey and Billy Elliser. Row 8 is Bobby Farrell and Jeremy Jeffries, who went to victory lane a couple of weeks ago. Ulysses Sandoval's back in row 10 alongside of Bernie Mobbs. Joe DeSpirito, Tim Anderson, they're back in row 11. Row 12 finds Pat McCarsky and Cy Jones. Chuck McClure, he knows he's locked into the final 4. He can go out there and have some fun tonight. Maybe see if he can pick up back-to-back victories here with the final 4 looming. He's in row 13 alongside of Michael Norman. Row 14, Greg Lovell alongside of Glenn Harris. And your top 30 completed with Greg Palmer and playoff driver Tim Nofsker. Richard Martin, he's back in row 16 alongside of Ken Roberts. Mark Paglia, Ron Hagelin in row 17. Row 18, Terry Bombard and Grant Wesley deep in the field tonight. P36 for the 88. Same for playoff driver Josh Metallic, who rolls off the inside of row 19 alongside of Jeffrey Elliott. Doug Hewlick, Brian Rawson. They're going to be back in that 19th row, and bringing up the final row tonight in this 40-car lineup will be David Little and Perry Bond. So interesting there. Both Grant Wesley and Josh Metallic, who ironically came into tonight tied for 3rd in points, kind of co-sharing that cut line deep in the field here tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun to kind of keep one eye at the front of the field and one eye towards the back as the 88 and 39 try to work their way forward.
Yeah, by the way, Seth, I'm seeing the screenshot you took of the starting lineup for what I can see right now instead of the live view.
All right, we will fix that here.
But yes, those two starting in the very back. That's definitely going to be interesting. As close, those two being tied in points. I think there's going to be a sense of urgency for these drivers to get up front and lead a lap, try to get a bonus point, because that's going to be crucial tonight.
And we ended up seeing last week, we ended up having a number of weeks where really it was all about execution on pit road under green flag conditions that ended up determining who was going to first off advance into the playoffs and then advance through the respective rounds. Last week, we saw a couple more cautions and a couple of interesting events that really determined the fate of drivers coming into tonight. We're going to have to see as the aggressiveness, the wick gets turned up just a little bit more here with that final 4 looming. Will we end up seeing the playoff drivers have to maybe call some audibles on strategy tonight, depending on circumstances? 66 laps will determine who joins Chuck McClure in the final round of the playoffs as Denny Carroll brings us to the stripe, and we're racing here tonight at Dega.
By the way, Michael said that he said Kevin.
I'm assuming he's saying that for good luck. He was hoping he was going to start this race up inside the top 10, and the random qualifying draw put him back outside the top 25.
Well, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. It really matters, but Denny Carroll sure is...
last week, so...
6, yeah. But Denny Carroll sure is happy with that qualifying draw as he is side-by-side for the race lead, getting a good push there from the 29. They're pretty organized on that outside line, though, too.
Can he get back to the stripe here, lead that lap, get that valuable bonus point? It's going to be close between himself and Robert Spring, but I think
Spring got it.
Yep, I think you're right.
Already getting a third line going. Randy Waugh leading that line right there. Rodney Solins right behind him. Brian Schilling, Bob Seminara, Jeremy Jeffries. Good number of others up there as well.
You see the purple 77 of Donnie Garrett on that inside line, rolled off 7th. Right now running unofficially in the 6th position as he's on the bottom of that 3-wide situation. Again, he in the 41. They've got to be running up at the front and stay at the front here tonight to give themselves a shot of getting above that 4th in the standings cut line.
Denny Carroll will get the bonus point that time. Now Donnie Garrett going to lead that middle line.
Pulls up in front of Robert Spring. Had to give a little bit of space there to Jeff Cravell on the inside. Robert Spring up and into the wall, actually, there off of turn 2. Fortunately for him, he got an even bump from the 21 of Randy Waugh, but that almost stacked up that entire third line.
Yeah, that was a nervous moment for a lot of people right there.
You have Dennis McCarthy working his way up into the top 5 this past Monday night. Dennis McCarthy picking up his first career podium finish here in Rolling Thunder Gaming. Rodney Sullins picking up the victory in that race. Dennis right now battling with Donnie Garrett for the 4th position. Here you look at the different drivers, the playoff drivers, their scenarios coming into tonight. And while obviously you don't want to find yourself in a deficit coming into an elimination race, I almost like Donnie Garrett and Denny Carroll's position more than I do some of those others like Grant and Josh and Rodney and Bob, in the fact that tonight your goal is pretty much clear. You've got a set position that you want to be running in or above, whereas all the others, with the points as close as they are, when you're in a 40-car field, are you able to, in a way, determine your own fate of, okay, if I'm running here and they're running there, I'm just barely above the cut line. It's almost like you have to wait for the dust to settle to see if your effort was even enough to keep you in the final 4.
Yeah, a lot of stress for the rest of them right there, except for the 40, like you mentioned, the 41 and the 77. You know, they don't have to play defense. They just got to be on offense the entire time. That is a lot easier than everybody else. You know, they have to worry about where everybody else is running. They have one goal in mind: try to win this race and advance. Everybody else, boy, they have a lot more to worry about.
About to be 5 laps into this race. For those that are wondering about those playoff drivers that the random qualifying draw put towards the rear of the field. Last time by, Josh Metallic scored in 30th, Grant Wesley in 32nd. So it doesn't look like, at least for the moment, they're putting a lot of urgency in getting to the front. Might just be currently riding at the tail end of the field here. We'll see if they start making any forward progress. Metallic right now is in that middle line. Grant Wesley, he is actually up in the top line behind Ken Roberts.
Donnie Garrett looking for the race lead. Getting a nice push from the 44, Brian Lovell. He's side by side with the 29.
Wrecking in the back.
Caution is out. Oh, and a big wreck here. Oh, and one of the drivers involved is one of our playoff contenders.
Tim Nofsker.
Lot of left side damage. Actually, I think that car may have been up and over. I'm seeing some roof damage on that Amp Energy Chevrolet.
Well, damage on both sides right there, man. And you can see some damage on the roof of it too. So yeah, that car was definitely upside down. Richard Martin involved, it looks looks like.
Doug Hewlick in the 23 as well. And remember, for Tim Nofsker, he came into tonight, yes, leading the point standings in terms of points accumulated last week and the bonus points that carried over from the round of 12 into the round of 8, but only 10 points to the good above the cut line.
Yeah, Bombard had a real big head of steam there. He had to check out something awful. That caused a stack up.
Let's see what happened here. There's Oscar into the back of Bombard, and the 23 got some air too, along with the 43. So the car's getting upside down a little bit there. And
I'd mentioned about Grant Wesley moving his way forward on the third line. One driver that was right behind all of this did a great job of avoiding was the 39 of Josh Mattel. He was actually boxed in the middle line and somehow was able to find a path to the inside, just barely avoiding running into the back of Richard Martin.
I think something happened to the 22, right? Because saw Palmer just look like he got out of the throttle big time right there. I think that's what caused the checkup.
One of the big things with CTS physics in this setup is cars get a major run down the second half of the straightaway, and then they all accordion up on that inside line. I mean, Palmer and the contact with him and Terry Bombard, that wasn't even where the checkup started. I think it was like 3-4 cars ahead with John Godfrey, Joe DeSpirito, Chuck McClure. It just accordioned all the way back. Quite concerned about that Tim Nofsker machine. Now, I think he more than likely, provided they don't shut the engine off, he's going to stay out there. He's going to log all the laps he possibly can. But I don't see any feasible way that that car is going to be able to stay up to speed and in the draft. And we know that coming into a race like this, with how many cars there are and the level of competition, 10 points above the cut line, that might as well be 1 point. It is not a safe space at all.
Boy, how quickly things changed. Tim Nofsker went to victory lane 2 weeks ago to lock himself into this current round, and now he's going to be pretty nervous the rest of this race.
He'd been on a great run. Not only had that victory, as you mentioned, but
second
last
place.
week, yes, second place to Nofsker last week. I mean, obviously, when we talked to him last week, he said he was more than happy to push Chuck McClure across the line there, and was hoping maybe the favor could be repaid here tonight. You have to wonder if he might be second guessing that now, because if he'd been locked into the Final Four, this wreck tonight would have meant nothing. He'd still be battling for the championship. Now he's got to hope and pray that a lot of other drivers that were close behind him in the standings, that they run into some issues here tonight as well.
In fact, the last 2 weeks, both Tim Nofsker and Chuck McClure finished first and second. In fact, Rodney Sollins finished third the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, that was... Still blows my mind that was it. Something like that can actually happen on a super speedway, as competitive as things are there. But that's just an amazing feat. But it's going to happen tonight, at least not for Tim Nofsker, unfortunately.
He has made his way back out onto the racetrack. He's been on pit road a couple of times here under this caution period. And they've done the best they can to repair that machine, but he is still wearing the wounds of battle. And there's no way that car is going to be completely up to speed. He will remain on the lead lap on this upcoming restart. Terry Bombard has taken his car back behind the wall, so he'll get credit for 40th place here tonight. Everybody else is still running at this point in time. And Robert Spring is actually going to be the one to get us back under the green flag, as I believe he and Jeffrey Elliott both elected not to come to pit road under this yellow. Everybody else behind them did. So Donnie Garrett, Brian Lovell, Jeff Crivello will be the top 5, followed by Mangialardi, Breedlove, Waugh, Sullins, and DeSpirito.
See Denny Carroll way in the back there. I don't know if he had a penalty or something on pit road, but he was right up there. I think if he wasn't leading the thing, he was running in second when the caution came out. So there's a lot of track position loss there for the 41.
So we're going to get this restart on lap number 10. Last time they crossed the start-finish line, playoff drivers were scored in these respective positions. Donnie Garrett, the highest running, in 3rd. Rodney Sullins in 9th. They're the only 2 inside of the top 10. Bob Seminara in 14th. Chuck McClure 15th. And you got to go a long ways down the list before you find Josh Metallic in 35th. Grant Wesley in 37th. And Tim Nofsker in the 39th position. I believe for both Metallic and Wesley, they both came down pit road at the 1 to green, as did a handful of other drivers. Top off the fuel tank and see that if this thing goes green, if they can go just a little bit further on fuel than everybody else ahead of them.
Kind of surprised to see the 74 and the 56 stay out under that caution. We're still pretty early on, but cautions have been few and far between in a lot of races this season, so we'll see if this pays off for him.
Saw Donnie Garrett immediately move from the bottom up to that middle groove, right in front of Mike Mangialardi. That's more than likely going to help Jeffrey Elliott on that outside line off of turn 2, as a long ways back to help in the form of Jeff Crivello for Robert Spring. You can see the shoves down the back straightaway here as Brian Lovell gets a little bit out of shape there, but Elliott will indeed go to the top position.
Yeah, they're a lot more organized on the outside right now, and that's... You see they have a bit of an advantage, but already a third line forming with Brian Schilling leading that line.
As expected, Tim Nofsker majorly off the pace. The field to start-finish line when the leader hit it. Nofsker was just making his way into the entrance of the tri-oval. Now, if you're Tim Nofsker, you're kind of counting cars in respect to the other drivers behind you in the standings. Not counting bonus points for laps led or anything like that. He needs to make sure that Grant Wesley doesn't finish 11 positions ahead of him. Same for Josh Metallic. Bob Seminara cannot finish 13 spots ahead of him, and Rodney Sullins cannot finish 15 spots ahead of him. That's all scenarios, not even counting the possibility that either Donnie Garrett or Denny Carroll find victory lane here tonight.
And he's about 20 mile per hour slower than he should be, so that's he'll be watching the rearview mirror. I'm sure he'll be getting out of the way when the pack comes around.
Boy, Bob Seminara darts to the bottom right there. Not sure what happened there, but went to the inside of the 92. Doesn't have any drafting help right now. Got Breedlove coming and trying to get up there to him, but...
Oh, somebody tagged the wall there. Who was that? That's McClure.
McClure, maybe? Yeah. Everybody able to make their way around him. Looks like he's going to get back up to speed. Only going to lose a couple of spots as a result of that contact with the wall. And got to feel good coming into tonight knowing you're locked into the Final Four. Things like that, normally would stress you out in an elimination race, but doesn't have to worry about that scenario here this evening. He could bring it to pit road into the garage, or he could have an early night and he'd know that he'd still be battling for the title next week.
Donnie Garrett has gone to the lead. Got him a bonus point there.
But both the drivers that came into tonight in the 7th and 8th positions of the playoff standings have been able to get themselves a valuable bonus point. I'll double check, but I believe they are the only 2 of the playoff drivers that have led laps so far here tonight. And not sure exactly what went on with the 56 of Jeffrey Elliott. We saw him out in front with the race lead. He just actually brought it to pit road and to the garage area. So Jeffrey Elliott going to finish 39th.
He disappeared there as they were entering turn 3, I think. That's how Garrett retained the lead, or obtained the lead. That 56 disappeared for like 10 seconds. Maybe even more.
The tough there for Jeffrey Elliott. Obviously had a fast race car. That's back-to-back weeks he's had a fast race car. We saw last week when he and brother Chris were working their way up through the field, got involved in a massive wreck there. Had some fast Chevrolets these last couple of weeks and not had the results to show for it.
Look at Michael Norman leading that outside line right there, getting help from the 44. He was concerned about the 26th qualifying, 26th starting position right there, but doesn't seem to be bothering him right now. He might be going to the lead here.
I gotta double check and see. I don't think that Michael has led a lap yet this season. He might be looking for his first.
I know he did last season, a couple in the races that we weren't able to do.
1 lap led, can confirm. 1 lap led so far this season for driver number 30. So he's trying to double that total.
I was just going to put the points up and we could check the chart, but you got it.
Had a great run last week, finished 6th. Trying to carry that momentum over this week. Running well so far.
Now another driver that did not finish list here. Saw Richard Martin take a big hit, a lot of damage in that wreck over in turn 3 that brought out that first caution. And he's brought his car back behind the wall, so he's going to get credited for the 38th position. And one driver that these DNFs is actually helping is Tim Knopfsker, because these are not only positions that he's picking up, but this is increasing the best possible finishing position that he can have.
And precious points count, like you said, he picks up, especially from the bottom there.
It's one of those situations, like as a racer, you don't wish for any misfortune for anybody else, but man, when you're in that kind of position, you'll gladly take it.
Got a third line up there with a couple of Bryans, Schilling and Rawson. Rawson started this race from the rear of the field, rolled off the grid from 40th. Jeremy Jeffries in the middle of the 3-wide situation there. Bernie Mobbs, the Robbie Gordon throwback on the bottom. So you've got Robbie Gordon, Michael Waltrip, and Ernie Irvin battling at 3 wide for around the 13th position.
Mark Martin and Darrell Waltrip right there as well. You look at 390s throwbacks right there.
Greg Lovell rocking a brand new paint job there, Butterfinger. I don't think I've seen that one yet.
I believe it was Rodney displayed that in the RTG Facebook group page. Beautiful looking race car.
Haven't had a Butterfinger in a while.
I haven't either.
They're good.
Yes, they are.
Very underrated candy bar.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the flaky type of stuff, like the sponge toffee. So crunchy, Butterfinger, get in my mouth.
Jeff Crivello's now leading that outside line. A couple of drivers noticed that third line forming. So he, along with Rodney Sullins and Greg Palmer, have jumped their way up to the top. Michael Norman and Brian Lovell going to find themselves in the sucker hole here in a moment.
Boy, that middle line is gone. It's just the 30 and the 44. I mean, that is a very lonely feeling right there.
It's like we blinked and all of a sudden it's like Moses parted the Red Sea or something. I think that's who did that.
Yes.
You would be correct.
I can't remember. All these cool stories. I'm like, who's the guy who parts the Red Sea? Pretty sure that's Moses. It is crazy though, like on a track like this, you race here every single week, multiple different leagues, and you can't get a bead on when it's going to happen. You're in the middle and all of a sudden you're alone. It's happened to me many times. Where'd everybody go? Like there's 10 guys behind me, now they're all gone. But I'm going backwards.
And it's amazing too, because really, unless you're behind the wheel of one of these machines, when you're watching it from a third-party standpoint, you look at what you're talking about, where a line can have all the momentum, and then a corner later, they're going backwards. Like, what in the world happened? It could be something as simple as a checkup, maybe a slight bumper grab where everybody has to lift, and then all of a sudden, that momentum's gone, and you're fading towards the back.
And because we run here, is the yellow up? I thought I saw the lights flashing. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, caution is out.
You got 40-something cars so tight together, you could literally, in a blink of an eye, go and lose like 10 or 15 spots. They were getting
maybe Michael Norman, John Godfrey might have been the reason for this yellow.
I know Michael was in the middle all by himself. I don't know if... Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's got Ulysses right behind him. Oh, but looks like just a bad bump on the part of him and Ulysses. I know those two are working together, but
Might have been quite a difference in speed with Michael having no drafting help, Ulysses being up in that third line. Michael was going about 195 when Ulysses hit him, and then it shot him up to about 202 when Ulysses gave him the shove. So yeah, I think there was quite a bit of discrepancy between the speed of one car and the speed of the other, and it got Michael out of shape. Dennis McCarthy got a piece of that, as well as John Godfrey.
It's like Ulysses was trying to help, but just a little bit too much. It's a thought that counts.
That's happened to me before. That was
That caution saved Robert Spring. Remember, we saw him and Jeffrey Elliott stay out under the only caution we had prior, and Robert was actually on pit road getting service at the time that yellow flag waved. He will remain on the tail end of the lead lap.
He should have the lead after all this is over with.
Looks like everybody on planet Earth is coming to the pits today.
I believe this is also going to help Tim Nofsker. He was 2 laps down at the time that yellow flew, so he'll get one of those laps back via the lucky dog.
Michael said he definitely got some damage in that, so let's see how that's going to affect them.
I think Brian Rawson's going to stay out, get himself a lap-led bonus point. This is Sandoval staying out an extra lap. He's more than likely taking the penalty for causing the caution, so he'll pit second time by, and Donnie Garrett will win the battle off of pit road by just a little over a car length over Joe DeSpirito, Randy Waugh, Bobby Farrell, and Greg Lovell. Well, you mentioned, Kyle, about back in that regular season finale, Donnie Garrett had 2 goals. Win the race and make sure that race win gave him enough points to get up into the top 20 in the point standings to be eligible for a wild card spot. He accomplished both coming into the night in almost a borderline must-win situation. Do you think he's maybe turned back to that same page of the playbook?
Oh, I would imagine so. I mean, he's already made his way to the lead, and I would say his goal is just stay up there now that he's got up there. He performs well under pressure. He definitely proved that, and that's in the regular season finale. So
absolutely does.
On board with the leader, Rawson, number 6.
As we watch the battling here of drivers trying to make their way into the Final Four, another fun battle to keep an eye on here tonight. The 17 of Chuck McClure and the 88 of Grant Wesley duking it out in the Bracket Challenge Championships. It's the finals on the loser's side of the Bracket Challenge tonight. Winner will move on to face off against Brian Schilling next week. If Brian ends up winning the battle next week, he is outright going to be the Bracket Challenge champion. But if Grant or Chuck, depending on who moves on tonight, are able to win next week, it then goes into a rematch in the season finale. So Brian Schilling will be waiting here tonight at the conclusion to see who he will be battling next week for the overall championship in the Bracket Challenge. Timing of this caution, very interesting. Just a little past when these drivers would have had to make green flag pit stops had we not seen these couple of cautions during the course of this race. So kind of puts us back in the scenario here where they're going to have to come to pit road at least 2 more times due to the fact of finding themselves about 5 laps short of making it the rest of the scheduled distance on the upcoming green flag pit stop. That, again, is all speculating that we are done with seeing cautions here tonight, but can't take anything for granted, especially when you're in an elimination race here in the playoffs, and then you've got a bunch of drivers 32 of them that took the green flag here tonight that don't have the weight of battling for a championship hanging over their head like a sword of Damocles. They can go out there and try and see if they can maybe replace that goose egg that they've got in the win column here before the season draws to a close.
I could just add a whole new degree of difficulty for these drivers trying to make it into that Final Four if this race happens to come down to fuel mileage of all things. Still very early on, but just something to keep in mind.
I know we talked about for both Donnie Garrett and Denny Carroll, mathematically they are not in must-win situation. If you want to go underneath the helmet of that 77, he was in our comments before they took the green flag, and he said tonight, must win, period. So he has been out in front here for 10 laps. He's getting ready to be our leader on this restart. He's got no plans of giving up this top position tonight.
That would be my strategy right there. That way I don't have to worry about doing any math. Just go out there and win. The points fall where they may after that.
Caught sleeping a little bit there on that restart was Donnie Garrett. DeSpirito got a great jump. The problem is, though, 21 is right behind the 77. Yeah, 92, a long ways back.
He got a good push there from the 92, but Farrell couldn't keep up with him right there, and now DeSpirito's paying the price for it.
Donnie will move up to that middle line as the energy starts to build there. DeSpirito back to Farrell, back to Seminara. Tim Anderson up here in the 33 as well. Take a look on that inside line. Third car in line, that Dale Jr. throwback, Grant Wesley, from all the way back in the 36th starting position, has made his way up into the top 10.
I'd have been surprised if we didn't see him up here in contention before the end of the night, despite him starting back there.
Fresh off a victory last night at the Chicagoland Speedway in the Aero 88 Series, his 5th victory on the season there on Wednesday nights. 2 races left to go as he's trying to hold off Jeremy Jeffries' Jeff Supta to claim that championship, and would love to join Chuck McClure in the Final Four to compete for the championship here tonight. Grant ended up having a run where he had 3 championships in 4 seasons here on Thursday nights. I would love to be able to add yet another championship here as they are 3 wide further back. One of the drivers in that 3 wide situation is the 41 of Denny Carroll. You had documented, Kyle, back during that last caution how he went from the front to the back, and I noticed him most of that run just kind of chilling at the tail end of the lead pack. Doesn't look like that's the case now. Working his way back forward is tonight's pole sitter.
You were talking about Wesley racing yesterday. Was that NASCAR or was that in iRacing?
NR.
Okay. Old Faithful. NASCAR 2003 season.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, because I know Rolling Thunder runs iRacing leagues as well, right?
Yes, they do. Yep, on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, right on.
Got a third line foreman. Whoa. Donnie Garrett saw that going to try to get in front of... the Spirito, and around he goes.
This is going to be a massive one here as it's in the tri-oval. And I see at least 3 or 4 playoff drivers involved, including Rodney Sullins, who is up and on his side.
Looks like Paglia is smoking with the black clouds, unfortunately.
Now that looks terminal in the 28 car right there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Josh Metallic spinning down to the inside of the racetrack. Not sure if he got any damage or not. Might have been a harmless spin for the Ryan Newman throwback.
Saw a lot of damage to the back end of Rodney Sullins right there.
This was in the tri-oval and right up at the front of the field as well.
They were trying to make a move right there. I noticed that outside line was coming, and I think the 24 and the 77 moved up, and I think that's where the contact started. I don't know with who exactly, but...
Well, it looks like when Rodney gave a good push to Bob Seminara through the tri-oval, he got there at the wrong time and bumped the 24 of Despirito. That's what got him loose, and then it was just on from there.
How did Seminara get through that is what I want to know.
And Josh Metallic, he went for a spin down through the infield grass, but I don't believe he hit anyone, and I do not believe that he hit the wall either. Big hit head-on for Brian Rawson. David Little, big hit into the inside wall for the 83, right at that 45-degree angle at pit road exit.
Focused on Godfrey right now. I think he got through it from the back. Yeah, he did. Unscratched, drove through the whole thing.
No, Rodney Sullivan's got upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, Rodney was sliding on his side down the wall there.
Yeah, we saw, you mentioned Blaine, the 28 of Mark Paglia smoking. I think it was a hit from him as he got directed up into Rodney Sullins that ended up bringing about the terminal damage for the Lotus throwback. Kind of squeezed Rodney up into the outside wall, flipping the 38 over onto his side. And more playoff drivers, as the race progresses, put into very interesting situations. First, it was Tim Knopfsker with all of his damage. Came into this race 10 points to the good above the cut line. Now it's Rodney Sullins who came into the night 4 points below the cut line. So your Grant Wesley or Josh Metallic or Bob Seminara situation, at least for the moment, is looking favorable for you, but we're not even yet to halfway. A lot can still happen.
The way this race is going, I wouldn't be comfortable at all. I mean, it's just looking like one of those full moon kind of races.
And the last couple of weeks have been pretty much flawless racing, so it's like they're catching up on those extra couple of yellows that we should have had the last month or two. And just focused on the 060 of Perry Bond, getting up on the headlights, doing some Tony Hawk stuff, grinding.
The thing that's had the biggest impact last, I don't know how many races we've had, but it has been green flag pit stops. We're yet to have green flag stops yet tonight.
Kind of interesting, too, because, going back to Monday night, when it was the elimination race there to determine the final four, Dave Melson was involved in an early wreck. Brian Schilling had an engine failure. Jim Glaude was involved in a wreck. About the time that we got to halfway, the final four were basically already determined for those that were still out there and those that had managed to get stage points at the halfway point of the race. We're almost entering into the possibility of that territory here as well with the Knopfsker and Rodney Sullins incidents here. There are some drivers that they may not even need a top 5 or a top 10 tonight. Just as long as they finish the race on the lead lap, it may be a securing their spot into the final four scenario.
I've saw that Knopfsker is still out there, trying to pick up anything that he can. What about the 38? Is he dead? Oh, there he is, right there, still coming out of the pits. So he's still out there on the track. Back end is completely gone on that car.
The thing that's going to be the question mark for the 38 is, does he have aero damage on the front? Because if it's just damage on the back end of the race car, I can say this from personal experience with this mod, you can actually still be competitive. You can still run up in the lead pack. But if he's got damage on the front end of that race car, which getting up over on his side like he did, I'd be surprised if he didn't, then that might put him in the same type of scenario as Tim Knopfsker. I think he, by himself, would be able to turn faster lap times than the 088, because I think there's a lot more damage on Knopfsker's car than there is on Sullins, but might need a lot of help to be able to stay up here towards the front, as looks like Bob Seminara is heading to the back. May have been deemed responsible for bringing out that yellow flag. And that's going to have Robert Breedlove the leader as we go back green. He alongside of Randy Waugh for this restart.
Luigi. See Grant Wesley and Donnie Garrett, row number 2. Looks like Breedlove's going to have the advantage on this restart.
Much like we normally see, that driver on the inside line of the racetrack moves up to the second groove, gets the momentum down the back, and Breedlove will have the lead going into turn 3. You mentioned about Tim Nofsker, that caution coming out. He got the free pass. Back on the lead lap now is the 088. Got a lot of drivers out here that are badly damaged and off the pace. David Little still soldiering on. Same for the 28 of Mark Paglia. They did actually manage to get that engine fixed. He is back out on the racetrack, still running.
I am surprised by that. I thought that thing was... I thought that had DNF written all over it right there. All that black smoke coming out of the car, but it's amazing that that thing is still running.
37 drivers currently running, all on the lead lap is, whoa, Grant Wesley able to find a space in line right up in front of Jeremy Jeffries.
Like
Greg
Jeffries
Lovell was going to go up there with him, and there wasn't space for the 880.
Yeah, I think those two may have sideswiped right there, but able to keep it together.
Cars up to full song. Looks like Joe DeSpirito may have faded back to try and pick up Bob Seminara, bring him up. Whoa! Middle of the pack. Harry Bond with a moment. Nearly came down to Billy Elliser. Elliser had to go all the way down below the yellow line. Did not advance his position, so that is not in any way warranting of a penalty, but nice job there of everybody to avoid Perry as he was trying to gather his race car up about a quarter of the way down the back straightaway. So it's interesting when that green flag came out. Saw Joe DeSpirito kind of throw out the parachute. He dropped to the back to pick up Bob Seminara. I also noticed the 22 of Greg Palmer fall to the back because he has now picked up Rodney Sullins, trying to keep him in this lead draft. We've seen drivers work with each other all season long, week after week, and those alliances coming into play here, trying to keep the respective playoff contenders still in the hunt for a shot into the Final Four.
This is where it definitely pays to have some friends out.
Just moments ago, made their way around the wounded car of Mark Paglia, so that puts him back a lap down. Tim Nofsker is about half a racetrack ahead of the leaders right now. As Robert Breedlove continues to show the way.
Crossed flags. Halfway.
And at least one more pit stop to make. The timing of that last yellow, they should be able to make it now on one more stop. Now the big question will be, if we continue to trend green, when exactly they decide to make that dive, because there are some options here. You could come to pit road right when the fuel window opens, which would be in about the next 10 laps. You also could maybe come to pit road, stretch it as far as you possibly can, which would be somewhere around 12 to 15 laps. So we may end up seeing a wide window of when drivers elect to come down pit road, if indeed we are done with seeing caution flags here tonight.
David Little has just retired. That front end impact, I guess, did that engine no good.
That will once again be another position that Tim Nofsker will be able to pick up. Right now, he is in the 35th position.
Paglia as well.
We wondered about the 39 at Josh Metallic. Wonder if he got any damage in that wreck. Doesn't look like it. He's right up here in that lead pack. Last car on the inside line right there. That bright blue number 39.
So right now, Grant Wesley, as you mentioned, Josh Metallic, they're looking like they are in really good shape to be a part of the Final Four. If you're Tim Nofsker, I think the driver that you are mostly concerned about right now would be the 712 of Bob Seminaro, who right now does not appear to have any damage, though he is quite a ways back in the field. Scenario coming in tonight with bonus points not included was Tim Nofsker needs to make sure that Seminara does not finish 13 positions ahead of him to leapfrog him into one of those spots in the Final Four. Right now, Seminara scored in 27th to Nofsker's 35th, so that is only 8 points that he would have made up right now. Obviously, still a long ways to go, 30 laps still to run. But Nofsker is hoping that Seminara cannot gain any more before the conclusion of this race.
Seminara finding some positions, though. He's up in the top 20 now.
If right now Seminara would have to be running 20th or better to leapfrog the 088. And to your point, I think he is literally about to do so this next time by. As he works his way to the inside of John Godfrey. And he's getting a nice toe off that inside line. He's going to be a part of this double wide formation here when they come around to the stripe this time.
He crossed the line in 22nd, but then he got a pretty good run there and gained a bunch of spots. So I guess we're going to find out officially how many. From 22nd position to 15th. 19th. I love how it switches so fast. I got to give it a second because it goes all over the place.
Saw Michael Norman involved in that second caution on the back straightaway. Kyle, as you alluded to, he said he had some damage, but it looked like it's really affected him all that much. He's up in this pack as well. 7th car on the outside line, right behind last week's winner, Chuck McClure.
Looks like he's able to run well in the draft, so that's a good thing for anytime you have damage. At least if you can keep up in the draft, you'll have a shot at it.
Ronnie Sullen still remains in the draft as well. Brian Schilling, Greg Palmer back there offering drafting help. So don't count out the 38 just yet either. As Donnie Garrett now into the second spot right in front of Grant Wesley. Having some thoughts about taking the race lead back here from Robert Breedlove. Right now, Donnie Garrett, who needs every point he could possibly get. He's led the most laps. 13 circuits out in front. And I just noticed the 17 of Chet McClure jump up to the third line. I believe he may have had one of those blinking episodes, so he's going to try and get back to a safe spot. Does so behind Jeff Crivello. This is one of those nights, if you're the 17, you don't mind all those gremlins and everything.
No,
because you've got that golden ticket into the Final Four. Next week will be a different story.
You'll take those stress-free races when you can get them, though.
Right now, all 34 drivers that are on the lead lap are in this pack. A little over 2 seconds separating them from Breedlove back to 74 of Robert Spring. Nofsker 1 lap down, Mark Paglia 2 laps down of the 36 drivers that are still out there.
Grant Wesley had thoughts of jumping up to that second line right there that Randy Watts is leading, but quickly decided to go back to the bottom.
Yeah, we're closing in about 5 laps away from when that window would open to be able to make it the rest of the way on one pit stop. And that might be why we're seeing Robert Breedlove leading the field around on the bottom of the racetrack. Donnie Garrett seems pretty content to ride behind him. Grant Wesley in third, and then it's side-by-side for fourth with Brian Lovell, Randy Waugh. Randy's got the 31 of Bernie Mobbs for drafting help up there. Jeremy Jeffries, Jeff Crivello, Chuck McClure trying to get up there as well, but they're going to need more and more numbers if they're going to make forward progress. Right now, they kind of seem to be stalled out.
Coming up on Tim Nofsker. believe that'll put Oscar 2 laps down now.
Yeah, now they're currently 1 lap down, so that'll be 2 laps down.
Bernie Mobbs find a way down to the inside line there in front of Denny Carroll. Looks like more and more drivers are trying to do the same as now
Breedlove's
Robert
pitting.
Breedlove onto pit road.
All by his lonesome. Oh, pits are closed? No, that's got to be wrong.
Our telemetry with the number of pit stops that drivers made, it threw me off a little bit, but I thought that when Breedlove got us back under green from the lead, I wondered if maybe he hadn't pit under that caution, and it looks like with him diving to pit road by himself here, that is indeed the case. So the problem for Robert Breedlove here is twofold. Number one, he's coming down pit road all by himself, so he's not going to have anyone to draft when he comes back off of pit road. The other thing, he's not good to make it the rest of the way on fuel. He's still got one more pit stop he's going to have to make before the conclusion. So if you're Robert Breedlove in that 931, you're going to need a caution to save you and give you an opportunity to get back up here to the front, back into the hunt for this win.
Bernie Mobbs, another awesome painter here in the NASCAR Racing 2003 community.
Breedlove coming to pit road. That puts Donnie Garrett back out front. Going to add to that number of laps led here tonight.
I believe Bernie was always painted Bob Dixon's cars, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I think you might be right. Yeah, I believe it was a Bernie Mobbs specialty on those 143s.
Yeah, those STP cars that Dixon ran, those are some good-looking cars.
Yeah. Unbeatable color scheme.
One thing that always amazes me, we always talk about the talent throughout the field, but how many times? I think you could probably count on both hands how many times we've had drivers come into respective elimination races in must-win scenarios for whatever reasons and somehow be able to deliver. I remember a couple of seasons ago, Josh Metallic was in a must-win situation.
Oh, yeah.
Was able to advance his way in. Grant Wesley's been in the scenario before. Joe DeSpirito. And we saw Donnie Garrett do it here in the regular season finale, looking to do it again here tonight. It amazes me when all the odds of super speedway racing are telling you it's impossible, and somehow they're able to overcome all those obstacles and be able to still find victory lane. I mean, Donnie Garrett right now, his goal was clear. He said in the comments, win or bust. And right now he has been 18 laps out in front and looking for that automatic ticket into the Final Four via a checkered flag after the hardships of last week.
Yeah, that won a couple seasons back with Josh Metallic was awfully impressive. He already announced, because it was already, they were already in the middle of the playoffs. He already announced the week after that race that he wasn't going to be there. He was going on vacation, so he had one shot at it. He had to go out there and win, and he did just that. And yeah, anytime a driver can do that on a super speedway, man, that is extremely impressive. And what Donnie Garrett was able to accomplish earlier this season by winning that regular season finale and getting himself into the playoffs.
Yeah, and if Donnie Garrett hasn't led laps tonight, he's been up there the whole entire night. Just kind of floating around in that top 10.
If you look at this formation right now, this is what we call the snake. Everyone is single file on the inside line. Big reason for that.
Pit stops.
And last time they crossed that start-finish line, you can make it the rest of the way on fuel. So we might end up seeing some drivers make the dive this time by.
Here comes Donnie Garrett. Denny Carroll, Jeremy Jeffries. Let's see Sandoval locking him up a little bit.
Five wide
cars. They were four.
Moly.
Wow.
It was almost 5 with Rodney. Almost. Wow.
Ryan Schilling, Ron Hagelin, Mike Mangialardi. I think we're all in that 4, almost 5 wide situation. Somehow they all made it. Again, thank you, John Godfrey, for the wider pit road.
Mm-hmm. Where is he? There it is. John Godfrey.
Gives Grant Wesley the lead. He gets a very crucial bonus point.
Lap 48, and we're saying Grant leads the first lap. What is this race?
He's going to lead a group coming up here. This time 31 goes around 55. Michael Norman caught up in it.
John Godfrey as well. That's going to bring out the yellow when the 31 spun back up the racetrack. Now the big question is going to be for a lot of those drivers that hit pit road, were they across the commitment line at the time the yellow flag waved? If they were, they can take service. If they weren't, they're going to have to pass through pit road to avoid taking a 30-second penalty.
One person that's happy to see this is Robert Breedlove.
Yes.
Put it in slow motion here and see when they bring the flag out. Looks like pits are closed right there. So Tim Anderson and everybody behind him probably has to drive through. But if they need gas, might just take the penalty.
And Bernie Mobb's got some help from behind from Bobby Farrell. Him spinning back up onto the racing surface of what brought out the yellow.
Notice Bob Seminara got a piece of that.
I don't know if that had anything to do with the other incident. No, not really. Ken Roberts into the back of Michael Norman. That shoots him down to the inside wall and then back out into the path of John Godfrey. So we had about 2 or 3 different incidents there with that big group of cars coming onto pit road.
Chuck McClure got a piece of that as well. Maybe Josh Metallic? I'm not sure. No, I think he avoided it somehow.
Yeah, I think
they were
Josh
all
got
around
through.
him.
Yeah, Josh looked clean. There are all those guys that couldn't make it through there. They're coming down there now.
Now, we were not yet to 15 laps to go. So this caution coming out, the field is frozen at the time of yellow. I don't know exactly how they determine that when there are drivers on pit road as to who's in what position. But I think for some of those leaders in that second group, the goal would be to try to get back to the start-finish line before those that had pit prior to them come around. And they may actually gain quite a ton of track position as a result.
I think I see something. Is McClure out of fuel and they just pushed him in? I believe.
No?
I don't know. It looked like they were moving pretty slow out there. Yeah, McClure is out of gas. And Metallic was assisting. This is a replay, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think that's Godfrey. No, it's Palmer. So it's a parade. And Palmer gives McClure one last shot. Just enough to get him into his pit stall. So Chuck ran out of gas. And like I said, it's good to have friends out here, but we forgot about that scenario.
It's good to have a win the week prior, too. That definitely.
That's cool, man. Is that against the rules? I don't know. I guess we'll see in a post-race report. But, sometimes that's not allowed. But
I know in NASCAR you can't do that on the last lap. But I have no idea what the rules are over here in terms of that.
I've been in leagues where they don't allow you to do it. In NR, I don't think that's a scenario over here. And in all honesty, too, I mean, what's the harm? The 17's already locked into the Final Four, so... And the one thing that I am a little concerned about, though, is that it was Josh Metallic that offered the assistance. That means he's going to have to be at the back of the pack here now on this upcoming restart.
So I wonder, because there's a couple ways that could fall, too. Leagues could make that illegal, say, if you ran out of gas on the track and you push the guy on the track to the checkered flag. But in that situation, they were on pit, like helping him to get to the pits to get more fuel. So there could be a different rule in each scenario of that, too. Because if you're on the track pushing a guy, that might not be allowed. They have a pretty deep rule book here, so we'd have to go through a, Chapter 17, Appendix B to find it.
Section 1.4,
Yep.
paragraph 5.
Yep. Of course, nowadays we could just click on the little magnifying glass and type it in and search it.
Well, here's the thing. How long RTG's been running? I guarantee you that they have a rule about that somewhere.
Yeah. And I'm thinking it can probably differ because I've seen it both, helping someone to the pits is different than helping them on the track get to a checkered. So if somebody ran out on the track, you have to leave them alone. If it was the final lap which I believe Kyle just mentioned too, something about a final lap thing. So all different ways.
Drivers have been penalized for doing that in NASCAR over the years. I know that. If somebody runs out on the track trying to push them around there, I know that is illegal.
Well, gentlemen, you want to talk about a storybook scenario?
Yes.
Donnie Garrett and Denny Carroll came into tonight borderline must win. Look at our front row for this upcoming restart with less than 15 to go.
Kind of reminds me again of the regular season cutoff. I think they took the white flag. I think Donnie Garrett was leading and Joe DeSpirito was running second. Those two were racing for, trying to win that race and get that final spot in the playoffs.
And then behind them, you've got drivers that really have nothing to lose. Jeremy Jeffries, the only non-playoff driver to win here in the postseason. He took the first playoff race a few weeks ago. Ulysses Sandoval trying to get back into victory lane. Multi-time winner here on Thursday nights.
How about Rodney Stallings right there? No back end on that car, right up here in the top 10.
I mean, that car appears to still be up to speed. He stayed in the lead pack that whole last run.
How's Paglia's car still running? We've probably talked about that already, but that's wild.
Lotus power, I guess.
I guess, yeah. I figured he had the black cloud, but it's all good.
Mike Mangialardi going to restart this race up in 5th. Brian Schilling, really haven't talked much about him tonight. He's going to be 7th on the restart with Dennis McCarthy, Perry Bond, Doug Hewlick, the top 10. Grant Wesley's going to be all the way back in 16th, so the timing of that yellow did not benefit him. Josh Metallic going to be 25th on the restart with Bob Seminara in 27th. Chuck McClure has got the fuel to make it now. 30th on this restart, and Tim Knopfsker, who got one of his 2 laps back there via this caution, going to restart in the 35th position. If I'm just eyeballing it based off of who is currently running where, I believe live points would have Chuck McClure, Grant Wesley, Bob Seminara, and Rodney Sullins as the final 4, but that's just for right now. A lot of that can change here in these final, what's about to be 14 laps of this race.
And that's not taking into account that Donnie Garrett is leading right now.
Exactly. Great point. Yeah. 77 or a 41 win, it moves the cut line up a spot. Well, what do you think? We done with cautions?
I don't know.
You got 2 drivers up here at the front that are going to want to make their back bumpers as wide as possible to keep the race lead. I'm not sure the flagman's done for the night.
Either way, I think it's going to be exciting.
Here we go. 14 laps to settle it out. Everybody's got the fuel to make it to the checkered flag, so now it all happens up here on the racing surface. Donnie Garrett's going to have Jeremy Jeffries locked right to his back bumper.
Whoa.
Denny Carroll might have missed a shift right there. He did.
Yeah, he's really holding that outside line up right there.
Did he lose a
Either
gear?
he
Maybe
shifted
6
from
is
second
around.
to 4th, or
Norman's
he
around.
lost 3rd altogether.
Yellow flag.
And I gotta wonder if that might have been in relation to the issue of Denny Carroll, maybe stacking up the rest of the field. Ryan Rawson, Pat McCarskey, Mark Paglia, Randy Waugh, Greg Lovell, maybe even Chuck McClure back in this vicinity.
Josh Metallic's back there.
Yep.
If I had to guess, there had to have been a stack up somewhere because of that that gearbox issue on the 41, but we shall see.
Less than 15 to go, so they raced back. Donnie Garrett with the assist from Jeremy Jeffries. Won the battle back to the stripe, so he'll be our leader on the upcoming restart.
Well, you asked, are we done with cautions? Well, you got your answer.
Yes, indeed. And that's got to be worrying if you're Denny Carroll here now with this upcoming restart and maybe any others, because if you don't have third gear, that is a crucial gear that you need, especially when you're trying to keep the momentum going through 1 and 2. Ken Roberts in the 55 is retired out of the race, so he might have been involved in this. Is this up on the top side around the 6 of Brian Rawson?
That's where the 41 was, and I think everybody was just trying to scatter. And pretty big hit there for Chuck McClure.
Got direct up into the wall. Courtesy of Ken Roberts. Michael Norman was involved after a bump from behind by Brian Lovell. A tough situation there when you've got a driver all the way up at the front that's having that issue with losing the gear to get that communication to everybody back behind in that respective lane. We unfortunately saw the stack up lead to contact, and a couple of drivers going to have some pretty significant damage as a result of it. Metallic got clipped in the front end by Greg Lovell. Josh Metallic, I think he's been in 3 of the 5 cautions tonight, and he has had relatively harmless spins in all 3 of them. So I know they talk about passing off a golden horseshoe on Thursday nights. It might be in the cockpit of that Ryan Newman throwback this evening.
Which is, I know we've said it before, but a Ryan Newman car having good luck on a super speedway.
At Talladega specifically.
Yeah.
This upcoming restart's going to be potentially at 10 to go if we get the lights out on the pace car this next time by. As mentioned, Ken Roberts out of the race, so that continues to move Tim Nofsker's potential finishing position further up. Now, the worst he'd be able to finish is 35th place. And just doing the quick math here, can confirm Donnie Garrett has locked up the bonus points for most laps led here tonight. No other driver, even if they led from this point to the end of the race, would be able to eclipse those 24 circuits out in front.
I didn't think you'd be able to use the word eclipse in a sentence tonight, but you did it. Oh, yeah.
It's weird. You can almost use any type of word in the English dictionary and you can apply it to racing somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
Eclipse, that's one of my favorite wrestling finishers.
Who does that one?
Athena, formerly known as Ember Moon in WWE.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. Do they still call it the Eclipse in Ring of Honor in AEW?
Not sure.
I can't remember. Mark Bagley giving a shove to Tim Nofsker and make sure that they get back around to the tail end of the field before they go back green. So those two get the lucky dog here. This puts Nofsker back on the lead lap. Paglia to 1 lap down. I mean, I'll tell you what, if Tim Nofsker is able to catch a break and some of the other playoff drivers are involved in a late race wreck here and he's able to somehow sneak his way into the Final Four, he will definitely have earned it, because it's got to be so frustrating being involved in one of those earlier wrecks, spending, 90% of this race off the pace, and then to have it all worthwhile if you're able to somehow keep yourself above that cut line.
It's like one of the feels like one of the longest races you've ever ran, just out there logging laps, hoping for the best.
There were a couple of seasons ago, Nofsker was in a similar scenario where he lost fourth gear and he was out there running in third gear as long as the engine would allow. He made it to the end of the race. I can't recall if he advanced into the next round of the playoffs or not, but I don't think this is the first time he's been in this kind of a scenario before where the car has been off the pace for a majority of the run as he looks to move himself into the final round of the postseason. Look at some of the stories we've got up here. A couple of names that are jumping out at me here on the inside line. The 029 of Mike Mangialardi, the 060 of Perry Bond. We've seen drivers over the last few seasons be able to get their first ever victories in the Talladega Challenge Series on Thursday nights. That's a couple of drivers right there that could very well do so in the late stages of season 67.
Right there in prime position to do it, so.
Bit of an early green flag right there.
Jeremy
Jeffries was ready for it.
See Denny Carroll kick to the outside right there. I don't know if... I think you're right. I think he may have lost third gear or something. And everybody was aware of it that time. Didn't want to get caught behind him.
Whoa! Perry
Ulysses
Sandoval. Perry was trying to move up there with Mike Mangialardi. Sandoval was there, and I don't think he really appreciated that. It's a little paint exchange between those two down the backstretch. Got a couple of teammates nose to tail there. Rodney Sullins, Dennis McCarthy saw these two work together on fuel strategy Monday night. Both netted podium finishes as a result. Dennis trying to keep Rodney up here in this lead group. Trying to maybe push him into a spot in the final four. Even with that back end damage, that fuel cell completely exposed to the drivers behind him.
Now, you take one look at that 38 car, you'd probably think he's a lap down. No, he's right up here in the lead lap in a position to possibly win this thing. You never know. So it's just amazing, the physics in this game sometimes.
Drivers towards the back trying to work their way to the front. Wesley, Seminara, and Metallic. They've all made their way back up into the top 20. Grant trying to crack the top 15. Right now, they're all chasing that Michael Waltrip throwback, Jeremy Jeffries. And the caution is out.
Chuck McClure.
Off of turn 2, and that car is nosed into
Mangialardi around from the front here. In the race pack situation. Mangialardi from third or fourth place. They just got turned.
And Jeff Crivello just got turned off of turn 4, and he got Greg Palmer.
Man, what is going on here?
Oh, we got a Breedlove. Big hit into the outside wall through the tri-oval for the 931.
Man.
At least 3 different incidents here on this lap. McClure bringing out the initial caution, and then 2 other wrecks coming back to the start-finish line. We should get a restart here. There are enough laps to be able to do so, but it will be less than 5 to go.
Oh, Mangialardi got tore up bad. Holy moly.
Like another stack up? Yeah, Joe DeSpirito, Brian Lovell through 1 and 2. Oh, actually, it was even further ahead of them. Greg Palmer and John Godfrey? somebody else blow up or lose a gear or something? Crivello just kind of got shoved into the corner by John Godfrey because they checked up in front of him. Hard to tell exactly where that stack up began.
I think there was contact between Michael Norman and Chuck McClure. And it was just a single car spin right there that brought out the caution. But wait, there's more.
Yeah, then the second incident ends up occurring, I believe, with, as Blaine had pointed out, the 029 of Mike Mangialardi, and it was just on from there of drivers scattering to avoid as Mike got a bump from behind by Ulysses Sandoval going into turn 3. Clips the 31 of Bernie Mobbs. Greg Lovell.
Just got a request from Michael Norman to go on board with him. He said he had an interesting experience trying to get through all of this when the caution came out.
Yeah, I see him making his way by Greg Palmer, and I think he had Robert Breedlove go shooting up the track right in front of him as well. Big hits taken in these wrecks as well. Wow.
Bob Seminara just dodged another one right there. Man,
we were just focused on our end on the 22 of Greg Palmer, and man, oh man, that right rear quarter panel of Seminara felt the whiff of the 22 as it went by.
He's Michael Norman in the smoke show. Able to find his way.
Like Breedlove after he got into that wreck in turn 4, he clipped the grass of the trial. Well, that shot him up the track into the outside wall right in front of Michael Norman.
Just behind him, actually, I think. Yeah, the 931 was not having a good lap.
And the garage area continues to pile up. And now add in the names of Ulysses Sandoval, Jeff Crivello, and Greg Palmer.
I didn't notice something happened to Ulysses right there.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that was his second incident. Because he had the bump from Michael on the back straightaway, and then the bump into Mangialardi into turn 3. So I believe that was second incident charged of the 096.
Now if you have two, you park.
Yep. Now Chuck McClure, very, very happy that he had that victory last week to lock himself into the Final Four because the engine just gave up the ghost on the 17. So it'll be 33rd position finishing result for him here tonight. But he will still be battling for the championship starting next week in the final 2 races of the season.
And Knopf's in 25th.
Soldiering on.
Yeah.
It may still happen.
It's been a battle of attrition tonight, and it's played right into Knopf's hands here so far.
Right now, just doing the quick math, he would still be ahead of both Josh Metallic and Bob Seminara in the point standings with where he's currently running in relation to them. Grant Wesley, I believe, has leapfrogged him. Grant's running currently in 8th, and he was only 10 points behind Tim coming into tonight. Question mark would be Rodney Sullins. He is 3rd, and he needed to be 15 positions ahead of Tim, so he would be ahead of him also. But again, you got Donnie Garrett up here on the front row, and it looks like Jeremy Jeffries, who is the leader, who is the control car, is electing the outside line for this upcoming restart.
It worked for him on the last restart there. I mean, he didn't have lane choice, but figure, got a good start up on the outside last time by. Why not try it again?
We'll have Brian Schilling behind him for drafting help. Donnie Garrett going to have Rodney Sullins on his back bumper. And this will, it looks like, be our last restart of the night with 4 laps to go.
And Jeffries gets a good restart.
Reckon.
Oh, we got cars up and over back there. This might be the race for the win.
They take it already?
Whoa! No, I do not believe so. I believe we are racing back, and Garrett
Goes
Right to the bottom.
inside.
Yeah, they
Here
were
we
over
left
the
the
line
lane
when that
Got
happened.
help. He's got help from Schilling, but here's Wesley. Not going to go with the 1. Wesley looking to the inside of Schilling. How wide can Donnie Garrett make that car? I don't know if he's going to have to. Schilling goes to the bottom, though.
Donnie Garrett, are you kidding me?
Shot clock master, it looks like here.
Took the caution with 3 to go. I will be shocked if we end up going back green. He did it in the
Yeah.
regular season finale. He may have just done it here in the last elimination race of the season. Has led 28 laps so far, and the 31st lap led may end up punching his ticket into the championship 4.
Say that wreck that happened right there on that restart, that was back in the area where there were a couple of playoff contenders. I saw Bob Seminara got a part of that. Josh Metallic was back there as well. I don't know if he was involved or not, but
Denny Carroll's out of the race. He was involved in that. He was in a must-win scenario, basically, with where all the rest of the playoff drivers were running.
Wow, looking at the replay, I don't know. Josh must have known something. That blue 39 down there, you can see he's leaving a gap between him and the 41. And then the 41 gets into mobs, and there goes the
Metallic got by
brouhaha,
clean.
and Metallic just goes around, and there's about 8 cars rocking behind him.
like
Well,
the
more than
41
that.
got into the back of the
Dozen
31.
cars.
That sent him up into the 712.
It looks like the 31 of Bernie Mobs took a little bit of time shifting up to second gear there. I don't know if he had an issue on the start or if Denny Carroll, realizing that he had no third gear, if he was trying to anticipate the start there, get himself a good launch. But you see the end result, and Brian Rawson got flipped upside down. Get the 712 of Bob Seminara involved in there.
Tim Nosker got caught up in that. Saw Michael Norman involved. It's been a frustrating night for a few guys out there tonight.
We're going to have to do a lot of points crunching here to figure out who's in and who's not, because if Garrett indeed is able to keep that car under power, come around and take this checkered flag, the cut line is going to move up, and only 2 drivers, a minimum of 2 drivers, will be able to lock themselves into the final 4 on points.
And a lot of these drivers, they were separated by single digits too. So
Right now, I believe Grant Wesley would be in position for one of those 2 spots, as he's in the 4th position, but then maybe a toss-up between Metallic, Sullins, and Nofsker. Try and see if I can do a little quick math here. This is provided everybody remains in the spots they are currently scored. Rodney is 7th, Metallic is 15th, and Nofsker looks like he will finish, I believe, 23rd, because he's about to bypass Robert Breedlove, who just retired out of the race. So for Metallic to bypass Nofsker for the final spot, he would have had to have finished 11 spots ahead of him. And right now, with Nofsker in 23rd, Metallic would have had to have finished 12th or better. He's 15th, so Metallic will not bypass the 088. Now, for Rodney Sullins, he needed to finish 5 positions ahead of Metallic. Rodney in 7th, Metallic 15th. He will do that, but then he also needed to finish 15 positions ahead of Tim Nofsker, which means he would have to finish 8th or better. He is 7th. So if the math checks out, Rodney Sullins, by 1 point, has made his way into the Final Four.
Yikes.
No, this is all unofficial.
Correct. And just double checking, Sullins, Nofsker, and Metallic, no laps led tonight. So no bonus points come into play. It's all about finishing positions.
I think we may have only had 3 playoff drivers lead tonight. Donnie Garrett and Denny Carroll and Grant Leslie.
You would be correct. Or actually 4, Denny Carroll as well. Or did you say Denny?
I said Denny Carroll.
Okay, then you'd be right, 3. Donnie Garrett always comes into these races with the mentality of top 5 and top 10 them to death. He felt it was must win coming into tonight. He was in a must win scenario a couple of weeks ago in the regular season finale. He is now going to race his way into a round where consistency is kin. Yes, victories are good. Maximum points are good. But a victory next week, a victory in 2 weeks' time doesn't gain you the championship. You've got to be consistent over the next 2 races, accumulate the most points between those 2 weeks to take the championship. Donnie Garrett has certainly got a fighting chance for that. Has right place, right time, got a great qualifying draw, never looked back when he got to the lead. Donnie Garrett has won his way into the Final Four. He'll be joined by Chuck McClure, Grant Wesley, and we believe Rodney Sullins, pending the official calculations.
And he likes to call himself the nature boy. I think he could start calling himself the Iceman. I mean, my goodness. I mean,
what's the whole spiel Ric Flair has? The styling, profiling, wheeling, dealing, jet flying,
limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing.
I think he's done all that tonight.
That's awesome. I mean, I'd say it. Like Garrett dominated this thing. He was up in the top 5, top 10, like all night long. Led 27 of these laps and was just always up there. You know, the one way to avoid all those wrecks is just be in front of it.
Well, try being in like all of them but one.
Well, think about the scenario for Donnie Garrett as well. You know, you go back to the restart prior, he lost the lead to Jeremy Jeffries. He had to find a way around that Napa Chevrolet to win his way into the playoffs. Jeremy left him just enough room down the back straightaway for a race car to fit. Donnie stuck his nose in there, and he was not going to let off.
As he goes spinning through the front stretch grass right here.
So what happened when I got that last caution?
Back up in the back.
I know, I was a part of that, but I still don't know what happened.
The 31 got hit from behind, and I shot him up in the Seminara, and it was just one from there, from what I can remember.
Or we could just blame Michael. That works too.
Blame me, but I was trying to get through it, and once again, those follow-up wrecks to the second to last caution was very interesting when I was racing back to the line.
Well, Donnie's still got a lot of fuel, and he may burn all of it up here on this burnout.
Man, I don't have any tires left after this burnout, but...
Donnie, the only one of the playoff drivers to finish on the podium here tonight. Ryan Schilling and Jeremy Jeffries Going to finish second and third.
He's only the third driver to win multiple races this season, too.
That's true.
Joining Grant Wesley and Tim Knopfler.
And it amazes me how we continue to eliminate playoff drivers here in the postseason. 3 of the 4 playoff races so far have been won by drivers represented in the postseason. And I know we're only going to have 4 drivers in the hunt for the championship over the next 2 weeks, but I think it's hard to bet against maybe seeing both of those races swept by the remaining playoff contenders as well. Some good finishes here tonight for a couple of drivers as well. Perry Bond going to net a top 5 performance in 5th. John Godfrey in the 6th position. Mentioned Rodney Sullivan's no back end, and he's going to bring it home in 7th. We do believe has locked himself up a spot in the final 4. Glenn Harris, 8th. Good run for him. Same for Dennis McCarthy. Ron Hagelin, we really didn't talk about him all night long. Good run for him. He was very quiet, and that proved to be a benefit here this evening as he will finish in the final spot in the top 10. And I'm being told that as of right now, they are in the process of calculating the points. And we should have the official announcement of who the final 4 are for you before we go off the air. But while we await that verdict, let's dial up our podium finishers on the evening and kick things off with the driver that brought it home, P3, Jeremy Jeffries. Hey, Jeremy, it's the guys up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
I do.
I'll tell you what, fast race car tonight, able to stay out of trouble, saw quite a bit of calamity all the way through the field. And all the way towards the end of this race, he ended up getting that really good launch on that next to last restart, had the top position control car of what ended up ultimately being the final restart of the night, and you chose the outside line. What was the strategy behind that call?
I really thought I had a great pusher behind me, and I thought if we could get a good restart that it would be okay, and I could stay in that middle lane. But didn't quite work out the way I thought it would, but I still got the lead, which ultimately was not where I needed to be.
We had all sorts of different scenarios for playoff drivers here tonight. You had the 38 up there with no back end. You had the 77 in a must-win situation. The 41 was up there as well. As a driver that really doesn't have anything to lose, what kind of a sensation is it like up there knowing that there really is a sense of desperation as well with some of the drivers that you're battling?
It's a tough place to be because I didn't want to screw up anybody's chase. I didn't want to be the reason somebody got in or got out. I really wanted to win and let everything fall where it did, but just didn't work out that way. So congrats to Donnie because he made the perfect move, and I wasn't going to block him too aggressively because I knew it was on the line.
Still a great run for you here tonight, an impressive result, and still 2 more opportunities to put this number 1 machine in victory lane as well. With what occurred here tonight, what we saw last week, we ended up seeing a couple more cautions than normal, and we really expected that too with everybody in the different scenarios. Do you expect this to maybe continue to be a trend going forward here for these final 2 races, and does that plan out your strategy at the beginning of the race maybe a little bit differently than it was maybe even the beginning, middle of the season?
I think tonight was probably the craziest race we're going to have because there were so many things so many people racing for so many things. You got 4 people next week, and that's pretty much 4 people and the people racing for the win. We just had a mess tonight, so I think it'll be calmer the next 2 weeks, and it'll be back to normal for most of us. But I could be wrong.
Well, Jeremy, a great run for you here tonight. Nice to see the red, white, and blue colors back on the racetrack this evening. Solid outing in 3rd place, and as I said, still 2 more races to try and park this machine in victory lane before the close of season 67. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Well, first off, thank you, Rodney, for this awesome scheme. Obviously, he does fantastic work, and every one of them looks great. Thanks to Rodney, Tim, and Josh for putting the series on, for you and Blaine and everybody in the booth for broadcasting each week and putting on a great show for us. Well, we're putting on a great show, and I guess you all get to show it for everybody. But thanks to Sean, Josh, and Sheck, owners here, for keeping us going. And thanks to our family, friends, and teammates. That's all. See you guys next week.
Well, that's Jeremy Jeffries. A great run for him here tonight as he brings it home P3 in tonight's event at Talladega Super Speedway. Congratulations on the great run. Best of luck here in these final 2 weeks of the season.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can now get a hold of the driver that brought home second place here tonight.
Before we do that, I just got an update there from Josh Metallic.
So did I.
On the points. Says Chuck, Donnie, Grant, Tim, and Chuck are the drivers to make it, but it's very unofficial with the number of penalties. And then he says there was a black flag post race. That is not correct. Him and Rodney will be tied.
Yep, so right now, again, pending reviews and everything, Kyle, we may have another Final 5 scenario.
Why am I not surprised?
Oh my goodness. Of course, as mentioned, they got to go over post-race penalties and everything, figure everything out, so it is unofficial, folks, but there is a possibility we could be kicking off next week with 5 drivers in the hunt for this championship. If that's the case, I mean, yeoman's job to Tim Knopfsker, just soldiering on to keep his hopes alive to run for this championship. But let's see if we can now get a hold of the driver that finishes second place here tonight. Let's dial up Brian Schilling. Hey, Brian, it's the guys up here in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, a lot of the drivers that we saw finish up here at the front of the field tonight were those that were able to avoid the carnage. And we saw it just about everywhere in the field, the beginning of the field, middle of the field, even at the tail end of the field with some stack-ups on some of these restarts. This 4-car looked pretty clean, able to keep it out of trouble tonight in the conversation for the victory. But much like I was asking Jeremy, what kind of a scenario, what kind of a feeling is it when you're up there? Obviously want to put this car in victory lane, but you got a lot of those playoff drivers up there as well that are desperate for position. Some of them are desperate for the victory there to lock themselves into the next round.
Well, it was kind of a terrible situation for me, to be honest, because, yeah, as much as I'd like to win, I owe Donnie immensely, so congrats on the win to him on that. He helped me out, I think, last season at one point. You know, he stuck with me. I ended up getting the win. So I knew I was in a position to repay the favor for him because he needed it, obviously. But then Jeremy, he's pushed me to wins. Where he could have made a move and didn't, but pushed me. So I kind of felt like I owed him. Rodney, same thing for everything that Rodney does for me. I wanted to try to help him too. So it was like, no matter what I did, it was going to be wrong.
Well, a couple of races still left to go here to close out the season. A great run for you here tonight in the runner-up position. Anything here tonight that maybe you noticed that you can apply for the races going forward here? Do you think we're going to see same type of scenarios here in these final 2 races with only, well, it's sounding like maybe 5 drivers battling for the championship as more and more drivers now fall into the category of really not a whole lot to lose to close out the season, maybe with a checkered flag?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. You know, I'm still running for the bracket series, so I at least got to keep my eye on, Grant won it, so that's going to be a rematch from a few weeks ago. But yeah, it's going to be just a challenge because, you know, you're racing along those guys, and, you know, they're going to be trying to get every spot possible, and I don't want to be the guy to, you know, rock them, you know, running for a championship. I've been in those shoes. So, yeah, just kind of more of the same, I guess, with me.
You kind of preempted my next question here because, as we mentioned here tonight, you were on the winning side of the bracket, awaiting your opponent, which was either going to be Grant or Chuck here this evening. Did you do maybe a little bit of a test run here tonight? A comparison between yourself, the 88, the 17, in preparation for next week or potentially these next 2 weeks?
Not really tonight, to be honest. I was just trying to get back in the groove of things. Just missing the last 2 weeks with lacrosse, my stepson's lacrosse stuff. So just I wasn't even trying to. Well, run all that hard, I guess, but it just kind of fell into my lap there at the end.
A great run for you here this evening, Brian. As you said, be able to get back into the groove, runner-up finish. So we definitely got to keep an eye on this 4-car these final couple of weeks of the season. Of course, as well, wish you the best of luck starting next week. Maybe next week close out that Bracket Challenge Championship and not even have to go to the rematch in the season finale. But we'll give you now the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
All right. Well, as usual, thank you, Rodney. 4 cars, always fast. I'm hoping you snuck your way into the final 5. It kind of looks like unofficially, but good win to Donnie. Jeremy, I'm sorry. Also, thank you, Josh, Tim, Rodney for adminning, Sean Prime, the donation to put this on. Thank you to my motor not blowing up like Monday the last 2 weeks. So, besides that, thank you all admins for all their hard work. So, and thank you for the, always a good broadcast.
Well, Brian, congratulations on the great run here tonight. Maybe next week we talk to you one position better, or even talk to you as the Season 67 Bracket Challenge Champion. Congratulations once again on the great run here tonight.
Thank you.
Brian Schillen, runner-up finish this evening. 2/3 of the podium made up of non-playoff drivers, but this driver was in a must-win situation, and he got it done. He's moving on to the final round of the playoffs. Let's go down to victory lane and dial up the nature boy, Donnie Garrett. Hey, Donnie, it's the guys up here in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you guys.
Man, I'll tell you what, 77 driver laser focus tonight. I mentioned you were in our chat, said, hey, tonight is must win, nothing else, period, the end. Soon as you got to the front, seemed like it was nobody gonna get by this 77 car until that next to last restart. One was able to jump you, got in front of you, you were able to find your way back around him, but man, I'll tell you what a drive here tonight. This is the second time we've seen you do it this season. You did it in the regular season finale, and you do it here tonight. My guy, you're battling for a championship next week.
I tell you, man, I'm just stoked. But I tell you, I got to stop and thank Brian Schillen. Me and that guy's we've got a hell of a history. But I helped Tim last season, and he came through for me, and he's helped me. And he don't realize how much I appreciate it. And Jeremy could have blocked me there on that. He knew what I needed, and he raced me so clean. And that just tells you the class of the people that race here, and they knew how important that was. And that'll all come back double fold. And I appreciate those guys so much. But man, I tell you, I just was so nervous all day, but I knew it was going to be tough. But man, they just raced so hard. I am wore out. I'm soaking wet. I'm tired. But I tell you, it's just happy to be here.
We were talking about, we've seen this before, drivers coming into races like this in must-win scenario. And, all the aspects that we know of super speedway racing can basically put you at a disadvantage. We mentioned about tonight the fact that you were in a borderline must-win situation as far as statistically, and drivers have told us up and down across the board that these races are so difficult to win. How are you able to dial it up to a different level to be able to overcome all of those odds? Because just about everything is saying it can't be done, and still you're able to have your nose hit the start-finish line when the checkered flag's waving.
I tell you what, just determination and don't give up, and to cash it in a lot of help. But they had nothing to lose. I raced last week, and I was going to say that I got turned at 199 miles an hour. I saw Elvis and Jesus, and God told me it wasn't my time. Elvis said he'd see me in a few weeks. So I don't know what that meant, but I tell you, that was a rough one last week. But I was being conservative. You know what I mean? I was trying to be conservative. Tonight, it was go for it. Just get to the front as fast as you can. Stay there. Don't let nobody buy you. And I can race like that. I don't like to race like that, but I had to be extremely aggressive tonight. And it's tough. And it's tough to be aggressive because you might mess up and cause an incident. Then you're at the back. So you gotta weigh that. You're constantly weighing. Go, stay, go. Go here, go there. Calm down, get going. But pretty much just on the gas all night, man. Just staying into it and going.
I want to go back to something you said when you won that regular season finale. You said, now we're in the playoffs and this is where I thrive. Now, obviously tonight you had to win your way into the next round. And we see that type of a scenario in the elimination rounds. Now as we head into the final round of the playoffs, it's the accumulation of points over the next 2 weeks. A win obviously is big, but it really comes down to consistency. What is the confidence level going into those final 2 races? Because you talked about how consistent you've been able to be in the playoffs in seasons past.
Well, you got some incredible drivers in that. I think it's still kind of up in the air. There could be even 5 people. And the ones that are there are tough. And I mean, Chuck McClure, man, I got a ton of respect for that dude. I mean, him and I, we talk on the phone every once in a while, and we're competitors. You know what I mean? We've compared ourselves to Earnhardt and Rusty. Not really sure which one's considered Rusty, which one's Earnhardt yet, but we consider ourselves those guys, and we race hard. But you know what? We just don't try to screw each other up, and it's gonna be a fun 2 races. I mean, we're gonna let it hang out and let the best man win, and I'm gonna give it all I got, and that's all I can do, and I wish those other guys a lot of luck, and but like I say, just I'm glad I'm there. I mean, like I said, I definitely had to win, and so I mean, it was either that or I was going to do whatever I had to do to win. So we're here and ready to roll.
Well, the work has just begun after a wild one here tonight for you, Donnie, but at least for this week, you get to relax. You're locked into battle for the championship. You get to celebrate in victory lane. Your second victory on the season, only one of 3 drivers to do so far here in season 67. But before we let you get back to that celebration, floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Well, I got to thank you guys for always putting on a great race. I got to thank all the admins here. Hey, you know what? Just something just came to my mind. I want to dedicate this to Bones, man. We missed that guy. I wanted to do it the last time, and I was so elated and so excited I forgot. And so I want to dedicate this to Bones, man. We really missed that guy. And so, yeah, this is definitely for him. And we're going to go get him next week, man. Woo!
But we will be keeping an eye on this number 77 over the course of these next 2 weeks. Donnie Garrett, must-win scenario coming tonight. He gets the job done. He will be a part of the championship battle starting next week. Congratulations, Donnie. Go enjoy this victory, and best of luck next week in the final round. Woo! Donnie Garrett, one of 3 multi-time winners on the season here tonight as he joins Grant Wesley and Tim Knopfsker in that regard, and unofficially will join those same drivers along with Rodney Sullins and Chuck McClure in the final round of the playoffs. It's interesting. Obviously, things are going to change once the standings are reformatted, but you look at the 2 drivers here in this round that went to victory lane. Chuck McClure last week, Donnie Garrett this week. When they accumulate the points, not counting the victories, Chuck McClure, Donnie Garrett would have finished 6th and 7th seed at the conclusion of this round of 8.
Man, that just goes to show you what a win means in the playoffs right there.
Grant Wesley, he was, it looks like 13 points above the cut line. And then Tim Knopfsker, Rodney Sullins, again, admin reviews and everything pending, accumulated 789 points each. That would be a tie for the 4th and final transfer position. So, again, unofficially, it looks like back-to-back seasons, we are going to have a final 5 going into the next 2 races, this final round of the playoffs, which, obviously for those 5 drivers, they've got to love that fact. The thing they got to hate is if it was a final 4, you got a 25% chance of winning the championship. Now that decreases down to a 20% chance.
It decreases a little bit, but this is what all these drivers were wanting right here. They wanted opportunity at the championship, and those 5 are going to have it now. So either way, final 4, final 5, they're happy to be where they're at.
We saw these last couple of races here in this round of 8. A lot more cautions, maybe a little bit more desperation out of drivers. Now, yes, granted, we've eliminated 3 as 5 drivers look to move on. What do you think? Do you think we kind of go back to the same type of scenario we saw about the midway through the regular season into the start of the playoffs, where these final 5 are going to really have to worry about execution under green flag? Or do you think, much like we ended up seeing between last week and this week, you got to be in the right place at the right time, avoid getting involved in a wreck and putting yourself in a bad situation going into the finale race in a couple of weeks' time?
All of the above. Racing for a championship, you got to take everything into consideration. You got to plan accordingly. You got to worry about the pit stops. You got to worry about potential trouble happening out on the track. I mean, these guys racing for a championship, they have a lot on their minds the next couple of weeks.
Well, we are going to say here tonight, again, be sure to join us next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because there could be an entirely different story going on the air there as opposed to what we say going off the air tonight. But we are tentatively going to say that we have a final 5 to compete for the championship starting next week. 2 races going to determine who will hoist the championship trophy here in season 67. Chuck McClure, Donnie Garrett, Grant Wesley, Tim Nofsker, and Rodney Sullins. Which of those 5 is going to claim the crown? We'll have to find out starting next week. We thank you all for joining us here tonight for our coverage of the final elimination race of the playoffs, and we wish the best of luck to the 5 drivers that will be competing for the championship here this season in the Talladega Challenge Series. Congratulations once again to Donnie Garrett as he wins his way into the final round of the playoffs. For Blake Donlin, Kyle Matthews, I'm Seth Cole. We appreciate you joining us here on this Thursday evening. We'll see you guys next week for the continuation of the playoffs here for the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network and Tar Nation TV.